Hello everyone, welcome. My name is Julie Holmes, presenting from CQ Uni Careers for Help I Need a Resume webinar today. This forms, I think, the third of our series of Careers Help webinars that we're delivering this week. I do encourage you, if you do have questions during the session, pop them into the chat function, and I will be allowing some time near the end of the session to take a look at those. I may not get time during the session. So we're going to have a chat about resumes today, and whether you already have one that you're reasonably happy with and you're just checking in to see if you're on the right track, or perhaps you've got one as a starting point but you know you want to rejig it and improve it so it really stands out for all the right reasons in a competitive job market, or you are not quite sure where to get started. There'll be something for you today in today's webinar session. So let's get started with a little bit of a poll. And if you're happy to participate, you're most welcome to do so, or perhaps reflect on some of these questions. And I'm very interested to find out who already has one that you've already created yourself. Is it up to date? And are you happy with it? Very important question. Some other considerations that are worth thinking about are, have you had it proofread by a wordsmith or a professional that's be able to give some input for you? That can be a really helpful process. And have you tested it on the job market, and what kind of responses have you had? Has it been effective? So thank you everyone for your participation. I'm just going to end the poll now and we'll take a little look. And it looks like most of you have one, which is great. And if you don't, that's okay. There's no right or wrong answer. Kind of equal parts, yes, it's up to date, and no, it's not quite. And are you happy with it? Mostly, I'm not quite sure, or no, not at all. So that's really helpful feedback. Thank you, everyone. Okay. So it's really important to be investing in and thinking about how to improve your resume. So we're taught to be very good at what we do. Many of us spend many hours, time and effort developing our technical and professional skills, whether it's through study, professional development, work experience, maybe it's taking on extra projects, working long hours to support promotion, but not really necessarily dedicating the time into learning how to articulate our value potential to employers. So how we represent our accomplishments to others is a really important skill set in your career development. So the good news is the craft of writing a quality resume is not difficult, it's not rocket science, but learning a few tips and pointers and understanding the qualities or the features that make for an effective resume can really help you along the way and undoubtedly support your ongoing career advancement. So it's worth taking that little extra time to hone in on your craft and being proactive about your resume writing. Also keep in mind that there is a great return on investment. So if your resume has the ability of securing a interview opportunity and therefore a job offer a lot sooner, you may be generating or commencing the earnings of your salary a lot sooner, and therefore potentially your earnings could be a few more $1,000s over weeks or months when you would have otherwise been job searching. So taking that little bit of extra time and care can really make a big difference. So resumes have been around for decades, in fact hundreds of years. So Leonardo da Vinci, apparently, he had his own little resume document, the first recorded resume, and it started out simply enough as a page or two with your background information, usually where you've been employed, and it was either handwritten or typed. But resumes have really evolved quite a bit since then. So today's employers have expectations not only of what your resume should contain, but how long it should be and what must be included, as well as how it should be sent. So a list of your previous positions and the activities or experiences with little information about what you actually did or achieved doesn't really cut it in today's job search market. So you need to give recruiters a good sense of who you are and what you're capable of. So resume writing is a craft, and it's important to have a resume writing strategy. What is your resume? It's a marketing document that represents you, and it's the most important document within your job search process. So your resume tells prospective employers exactly what you want them to know about you and why you would be a good fit for their position. It should advertise your skills in an easy to read, logical and concise format. We'll be looking at research and conventions according to the job search process within the Australian job market. So if you're applying for work overseas, you'll need to do your research with what the accepted formatting and conventions are for that particular country, because they can be very, very different. And we have an excellent resource called Going Global that you'll find on Career Hub to help you do this. There's a stack of information guides for each country, written by local HR experts, explaining the job search process and what employers expect within that particular country. There's also an online job board for countries, thousands of jobs around the world, so do take a look if you're thinking about heading overseas for your work in future. But everyone's career story is a little bit different, so your resume will be as well. And much will come down to how you apply these conventions to your own personal resume. So let's take a look at what employers expect. And a great place to start is actually what not to include. So including any of these can really be a big mistake and make your resume stand out for the wrong reasons. And it could mean that your resume is eliminated immediately. It could send a message that you don't really understand the Australian job market. So firstly, don't include a photograph. In some countries you would, but not here in Australia. And there's a few reasons for that, but do include your photo on your LinkedIn profile. You can include your URL to your LinkedIn profile on your resume, but just no photos on your resume. And it's really important not to be including any of the personal features or status. So just include information that is relevant for the job. And here in Australia, it's due to an anti-discrimination culture and legislation where prospective job seekers should only be assessed against their skill sets and capabilities and not be discriminated in any way against their personal beliefs or traits. If you're wanting to find more information around this area, you can contact Fair Work Help Australia, and they have a 13 number available to provide consultation. So if you're not sure where to get started, if you're not sure where to get started, there's 3 really good career resume help guides that you can find in Career Hub. They're a really great point of reference, and also a templated example, a checklist that you can refer to as you're writing your resume, as well as a resume builder with some video information of how to complete each section. But first, it helps to understand the job that your resume is supposed to do. So let's think about, what's the purpose of your resume? What do you think its role is? Many people believe it's to get the job. Its role is to secure the job interview. So its role is to grab the interest of your prospective employer to the point where they want to meet with you during a job interview. And that's when another set of skills come into play, and that's your job interview or marketing yourself in person skills. So regardless of whether your interview is in person or via video link or phone, those same set of skills come into play. So how does this information, that the job of the resume is to get you the job interview, help inform with how you should write an effective resume? So it's vital that you include your key selling points and that they're easy to read. So you don't need to give a blow-by-blow inclusion of everything that you've completed or achieved in your life. You don't need a comprehensive biography or include your life works. Its role is to get you that opportunity to tell your story in person during a job interview. So a resume should be a snapshot of you and your career with an emphasis on your accomplishments relative to the job that you're applying for. So it's your selling tool. And a resume should clearly portray that you're a dynamic person and that you're able to offer a skill set and consistently perform. Your resume is your personal ad for you, and it's your one shot to land your job interview. So it's important to sell your career story. Excuse me. So now let's consider how they are assessed. How long do you think it takes recruiters on average to review a resume? Interestingly, it takes a recruiter roughly 8 to 10 seconds to put your resume in the maybe pile or in the unfortunate discard pile. So remember, recruiters are inundated with emails and job applications each day. And now in the era of internet job searching, vacancies can attract large numbers or even hundreds of applications. So in the initial stages of screening, recruiters aren't trying to find the best applicant. They're wanting to get that pile down to a manageable few. And they're wanting to eliminate as many unsuitable applications as quickly as possible. So your resume must keep the recruiter's attention. Remember, only 10 seconds can decide your future. So you need to work hard to ensure that you're giving yourself that a professionally crafted and cutting-edge resume that distinguishes you among many other job applicants. It can also help with using that information to consider what is your most relevant and impressive information. If a recruiter is spending a very quick time, a short amount of time with the initial screening, if you're placing that information near the top of your resume, your ordering is really important. So don't save all your best information or most impressive information for the very end of your resume, as it may not get read. Another important consideration to think about during your resume writing process is thinking about who your audience is. So it can be quite a nice little confidence boost as you put together all your accomplishments and hard work experiences collated all together on one document. But it's important to remember your audience. So people often make the mistake of actually writing their resume for themselves. And it may not make sense to an employer, or it may not clearly explain the level of responsibility or the experience that you are involved in. So you need to give recruiters a really good sense of who you are and what you're capable of. And an employer is looking to see you've actually added value as a worker. They want to know what you've accomplished in the past and therefore what you're capable of doing for them in the future. And they want to know so it's important to paint a picture of what it is that was involved in each role and each experience. And finding out what employers want and how or where do you find out this information. Ideally, you want to connect with employers, so talk to them, talk to recruiters, employers, attend industry and employer events or industry days, like the careers fairs during the career season happening at the moment. Jump onto Career Hub to have a look for events near you. We have a alumni mentoring program called Career Seeker Uni Career Connections that allows you to connect with industry professionals, our previous graduates who are now working out in the field, who are wanting to give back and volunteer to help our current students. You can organise and register with that program to organise having career conversations with industry professionals. Great way to get an understanding of what are some of the industry requirements happening at the moment. Another really good tip for getting an understanding of what employers want is to use the labour market as a research tool. So looking at advertised jobs on, say, some of the large job search websites like seek.com or indeed.com, and searching for a number of roles that you're interested in, the same type of role. It doesn't matter geographically where that role is within Australia, and getting your highlighter out and really honing in on what the key attributes and features are and skill sets that the employer is looking for. And you may start to see some themes coming through, and that will help inform you around what are the priority attributes and skills and knowledge sets that employers within your industry are looking for right now. So where to start? And I'm jumping ahead of myself. So it's tempting to start and delve straight into a template to get started with your resume. Just make a few little adjustments and tweaks, put in your personal details and fill in the little gaps, and going from there. But the problem is with templates is they can be really confining and limiting and may not do your story and your skills and experience justice. So try to fight that temptation. It's really important first to have a clear understanding of what your key skill sets are, before you start writing. And to do that will involve a little bit of reflection and some reflecting around what your key skill sets are. Because your content needs to come first, and your unique combination of skills, your life experience, your inherent strengths and learnings will be unlike anyone else's. And if you're wanting to look out and search for some tools to help you with this process, you'll find a large number in our Careers Toolkit and our resources on Career Hub to help you along the way. Identifying and understanding these first is vital, and it's your first step to reflect on these key skills and strengths so that you can and understand what you specifically can offer the employer. And why? Because often resumes can be very bland in general for employers. So if you can really understand what your strengths are and clearly state those and present them in a resume, you'll be doing yourself a favour. Looking at what your point of difference is. So what makes you different from someone else with the same piece of paper or the same qualification? That's your baseline. So first, starting with evaluating yourself. And here are some contexts that you can consider along the way. And we'll be exploring how to build your employability skills and capacities in our fifth and final webinar in this series. So do join us then, and we'll explore this a little further. So when it comes down to what employers are looking for, it really boils down to three main things. They want to know what you have done before that demonstrates you'll be successful in their company. Do you perform? They want to know how you increase the productivity and the value within their company. So are you proactive in using your skill sets? Do you go the extra mile when you are in the workplace? And do you get along well with others? Will you fit into their team, into their company culture? And that's where some research comes into play with understanding the culture of their particular company. So often the message gets lost in the text with lengthy lists of duties for each job and a rambling story with nothing in particular standing out. So if you can work out a way to help employers understand that you tick these boxes, it will really help you in the competitive job search process. Now, many people underestimate the value of their experience, whether it's paid or unpaid. And it's also important to note that Australian employers like to see that you've already been employed by an employer within Australia. So don't lose heart if you haven't already obtained your first job. It can be a little bit more challenging getting that first role, but it's important to consider trying to get some initial experience in any way, shape or form, whether it's an entry-level role or not, whilst you're studying, so it's not such a big jump when you're applying for your professional roles. You have some previous work experience within Australia. If you have work experience from a different country, do include this as well on your resume, your skill sets. You didn't leave them in a different country, they came with you, and they'll be transferable here as well. So having one resume is not enough. Instead, you need to create a master resume, and as part of your resume writing game plan, and then customize it for each job opportunity by featuring the most relevant skills and experiences for that position. So when it comes to resumes, one size doesn't fit all, and people often make the mistake of just listing or using one resume for all the jobs that they apply for, even if they're very different. And particularly using, say, for instance, your professional resume to also be applying for your entry-level roles, whether they're part-time or casual. Each resume should play a different role. So some students will have several master resumes for the different types of jobs and positions that they're applying for. For instance, an accounting student might have a handful of master resumes that they'll tweak for each job position as it comes up. They may have a data entry resume because they're applying for those kinds of roles, an administrative support type resume, a sandwich hand making resume, a cleaning and housekeeping resume, an accounting support or bookkeeping resume, and each will focus on different skill sets. For instance, bookkeeping resume may focus a little bit on specific software like MYOB, and data entry might focus a little bit on typing speed and administrative skills, and customer service will come in to play with other roles. So you would be reordering and refocusing the content specific to that particular master resume, and then adjusting it for each role. Different types of resumes. Very quickly here, you have a chronological resume, which is really in time order. You would start with the most recent first, and typically that's the style that most employers expect to see. A functional resume is popular with career changes and including students. So and you'd be working out which aspects and moving those sections around in order of relevance and importance, and then a combination resume. So I think the key thing here is try not to get hung up in traditional conventions and styles. Don't be afraid to mix it up in order to give yourself the best presentation and putting your best foot forward as possible. So put your most relevant and impressive information first, and that will mean different things for different people, even if it's not the most relevant. Formatting, a few pointers here. Use space well. The length should be 2 to 4 pages for your professional resume. So space is prime and key, not 22 pages as we do see from time to time. Employers don't have an afternoon time to spend an afternoon reading your resume over a cup of tea. And 1 page resume is fine for entry-level roles. That can be quite handy if you're doing a bit of a pounding the street and doing a resume drop. Everything is contained in that 1 page, but a little bit more involved for your professional resume. Also, when you're thinking about formatting, ensure that your email and contact details look professional. So no email addresses that involve fairies or kittens or unicorns. Keep that for your personal use and create a professional one for the purposes of your job search. And including your name and a number is fine. Thinking about the way you save your resume as well. So we often find when students submit their resume at this time of year, it might be called Resume 2016 and it's already 2017. So even the name that you save your file, it also needs to be considered when you're submitting. And stick to company formats if they're asking you to do so. Always follow the application instructions. So with formatting, what do we include then? So it's important when you're formatting your resume not to rush it. A lot of people don't like writing their resume. It takes a little bit of time, consideration, but it's important. So it's your marketing document. It needs to represent you well and present your story and experiences in the best possible way. Keep in mind it's a brief document, so it does restrict the amount of information that you can include, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Keep your formatting consistent and ensure that you do include that vital information like previous work experience, even if it's not in the same field or industry, and looking at those transferable skills. If you've had some internship experiences or volunteer experiences, practicums, include these in your resume. These are some of the formatting areas or ideas for headings that you might include, and do look at our information guides on Career Hub for further information. Students may start their resume with a career goal or professional summary. A skill summary is quite good for someone who may have a little bit of experience that they can draw upon and they're wanting to pull together some of the key transferable skills or experiences that relate specifically for that role. There's a little bit of a header to their resume, and that will create a little bit of a navigating or a navigator for the reader to see how those elements and features or experiences come into play later as they read through the rest of your resume. So that's another idea to consider as well. I'd encourage we're looking at your education section, do take a look at our resume example and our information sheets on Career Hub as a guide. Ideally, try and put your qualification first. Feature your qualification because employers are more interested in your qualification than your education institution, even though we know that CQU is important. Employers are much more interested in your qualification. So just little aspects like that can be important when considering your formatting. And your employment section as well, some little notes here. Other headings that you may include, if you have a professional membership, student membership, do include that on your resume. And your extracurricular activity where it's relevant for that role. With your volunteer work, consider if you do have some volunteer or community involvement that you'd like to include, format it the same as you would for your employment section. So the role, the organisation underneath, and just a few points around some of the details of your duties that you were completing. Referees provide have 2 to 3 ideally ready to go. You might not include those on your resume, but certainly you need those ready to go during your job search process because when you go to interview, you need to have those ready and printed, ready to go on your resume for the version that you present at your job interview. And choosing referees wisely, those that you know who will speak well of you and ideally who have seen your work. So one academic resume is fine. If you have some work experience, ideally that line manager or someone that you reported to or who oversaw your work would be ideal as well. Okay, so looking at your writing style. but the key thing here with your writing style is to keep everything in the same tense, and be very, very careful with your grammar and spelling checks as well. Red flags. So ideally, don't leave any chronological gaps in your resume. Explain these so that there's no mysteries. The goal is to inform the employer of your circumstances and minimise their concerns that they may have. So it's okay to smooth over small gaps by rounding dates. If you, for instance, we're working, say, November 2015 to January 2016, giving the year 2015 to 2016 is fine. It helps to streamline your resume and improve the presentation, and you just need to be prepared to discuss. You can always discuss during a job interview. For longer gaps, it's important to say what you were doing and to focus on the skills and achievements that you gained. So there are many neutral positive reasons why you may have gaps, like redundancy, which can be a common one, or maternity leave, or perhaps you took a year to travel, a gap year. Maybe you undertook a short course, or you undertook caring duties. So none of these will cast a shadow on your resume. You know, if you took 4 years out to have a child, state that fact. And if your career history is varied, for some of us it is, pick out the most relevant experience and then summarise the rest. So you might include a little heading, previous experience included, and just a summary over 5 years in retail and hospitality experience, or something like that, if you don't have room to put everything on your resume. Okay, let's just have a little look at some tips to help us along the way. First little tip is considering the use of achievement statements, that this little concept is a really powerful method to introduce into your job search bag of tricks, and you can use these in your resume as well as your interview, cover letters and responses to selection criteria. We went into a lot more detail around how to write achievement statements in yesterday's webinar, so do check that out if you'd like to learn a little more. But the key here is a lot of people talk in generalisations when they're putting their information together on their resume. And if you can anchor your statements with some evidence or an explanation of how you were successful with that particular skill set, it really does stand out. So if you can think of any little positive wins that you may have had from your previous experiences, and how you may have perhaps been a little bit proud of the work that you've done, or you think you were doing an okay job, and think of ways that you first reflect on those instances, and then think about the little indicators that showed that you were achieving. And maybe there are little things like you were asked to take on some extra responsibility, like unlocking or locking a shop or the office, or maybe you were asked to help train some new staff, or there may be other little indicators like you were promoted within a 12-month period perhaps. Or sometimes it can be helpful to just really paint a little bit more of a picture of the kind of workplace that you're working in to help future employers understand what it was that you were doing. So if you're working in a 4 or 5-star hotel, mention that, because you need to deliver exceptional customer service within those environments. Or perhaps you're wanting to show that it was a fast-paced restaurant that you were working in. How do you explain that? Maybe give some indicators like typically turning over approximately 90 customers during the evening settings in a fast-paced restaurant. These give a lot more detail rather than just saying that you were a waiter. Here's a little example. So a good rule to use with writing resumes is the results by action sentence structure. And wherever you can, including measurables or metrics. It can be extra impressive and grab attention of employers. So including, or if you can, quantify some of your selling points and including a few of these in your resume will give that extra impact. Some little mistakes, not tailoring the resume, spelling errors and mistakes are a key one. Not putting your most impressive or relevant information in, or actually failing to put that information in is a big one that we see. Here's a big one, proofreading, which we've talked about. So there's been a little bit of research done in this space. So you may be a terrific employee, but you might not be a great proofreader. So do get a second or third opinion before circulating your resume. This Australian-based research did discover, and they're able to measure some of the impacts around not having proofread well. So it's really essential that all spelling and grammar is correct. Use a spelling and grammar checker, but with caution. So always get it double checked. Use Australian or UK spelling, and not the US spelling for the Australian job search market. Okay, a little concept here that we call resume origami that may help you along your way. So if I take the sheet here, say it's your first page of your resume, and I'm going to make a little golden triangle in the top section here. This little section here should include an indicator of your top selling points. So essentially your prime real estate space when it comes to your resume is your first page, and even more so is that top section of your page. So again, don't save your most relevant and impressive information for the end of your resume. Make sure it features in the front of your resume. The friend review can be another little helpful tip to help you along the way. Consider giving a copy of your resume to a friend. Don't tell them the kind of work that or job that you're applying for, and instead ask them to answer the following questions. What kind of job do you think I'm applying for, and what are the most important requirements for that job? And hopefully they can work that out. If so, you know you're on the right track. If not, you might need a little bit of to put a little bit more extra attention or work into your resume. Another key tip is to test the job market. Circulate your resume and check the responses that you're getting, assess it and evaluate. So do keep track of the jobs that you're applying for, and keeping in mind that the role of your resume is to secure that job interview. Is it achieving that? So do measure that as you go. If you're finding that you're concerned that you're not getting that conversion into interview opportunities, it might be evaluating, am I applying for the right level role? And how competitive is the job market at the moment in that area? Do I need to be pitching my job search in a different way? Or is my resume serving me well? If you're having any concerns and you're evaluating, you might like to contact and make an appointment with a careers counsellor just to discuss your strategy and review that process together. Your completed resume, so it's not just a record, it's a springboard that you'll use to apply for jobs. So send it to your referees just to remind them of your background so they've got those on hand. And make sure you've already tweaked it and tweaked it and job check. Proofread it, so have it ready to circulate, take it with you to job fairs and networking events, and also take copies with you to any face-to-face interviews that you have, so you can provide those to the panelists as well. And also ensuring that your messaging is consistent with your LinkedIn profile as well. And the future of resumes, well, things have been changing rapidly, and we are seeing that video resumes are starting to emerge and gain momentum. So if you do choose to create one, usually your video resume would sit alongside a traditional resume and not take its place, unless, of course, the employer has specifically asked for you to provide a video response. And in which case you would follow those instructions carefully. But where you are creating a video resume, keeping it tasteful, it's very easy for a video to fall into that cheesy category. So it does take a lot of preparation to ensure that it's professional. Social media is a big one as well. We've talked about LinkedIn. So if you don't have a LinkedIn profile, do create one. We're finding, or research is finding, that employers frequently do search for shortlisted candidates during the job application process. The figures show around about 90% of employers do that. So ensure that your social media platforms are looking very clean and tidy. Check your settings during the job search process so that there will be nothing there that will let you down. Some resume resources that we've spoke about during the session. Here's a little list here, so do check these out when you get time, and including information sheets that we spoke about as a good starting point. You'll see information around ongoing events and webinars on Career Hub as well. There's the CQ Uni Career Connections alumni mentoring program that we spoke about earlier, and there's a resume doctor functionality as well. So where you've utilised these resources, you've written up your little polished final resume, you can submit this into us at CQ Uni Careers via the resume doctor function to receive some feedback from a careers counsellor. There's also, you'll find housed in Career Hub, the Careers Toolkit, which includes the CV or resume builder with some video information about how to go about doing this. And as I mentioned previously, you find the Going Global resource in Career Hub, which is a great, houses a lot of really helpful information if you're thinking about conducting some job search overseas. So you can contact us via email if you have questions. You can follow us on UCrew. Do jump into the Career Hub and take a look around if you're not already familiar with the resources that are available to you during your studies. We have 2 more webinars in our help series this week, so jump in and do take a look. And thank you very much, everyone, for your attendance today. I can see that the chat room has been very, very busy. So I'll just take a little bit of time to check through. And Debbie, I believe my colleague, has been busy responding. Okay, I'll just have a little check through. Thank you for those that have joined us for today. I will just take a little look at these. Okay, some questions around career changing and how to complete this and when it comes to your resume, and that's a really big one, and it's a big aspect for most students actually, because most students are actually making quite a dramatic, or often are making a dramatic career change perhaps from their previous field. So it's really important as much as possible to really break down and do a bit of almost a skills audit of the kind of skills that were at play in your previous industry, and then understanding where the transferable aspects lie and really honing in and focusing on those. So rather than putting all of those skills that you've discovered in your skills audit together on your resume, you would focus primarily on those key and relevant skill sets that trends or crossover. And some of the basic ones could be even, customer service, project management, might come into play. It's surprising how many skills, even in an entry-level role, for instance, working in a cafe, can transfer into professional work. So don't underestimate those, break those down, and you can always seek the assistance of a careers counsellor through an appointment if you'd like to workshop and discuss that a little bit further in your own specific case. But that's really essentially what you're doing. You need to identify what is it that employers are looking for in your new industry, what have I done previously, and where is that crossover and match occurring. Okay, how old is too old in regards to putting down past jobs and experience? The rule of thumb tends to be 10 years, but 10 years can go very quickly. So a little way around that would be, I'd encourage people who, if you've got extensive experience that you would like to be considered that goes beyond those 10 years, is to write a little summary statement like I do. So back in my old life, I used to be a classroom teacher. So I would put a little statement saying previous work experience includes more than 5 years working in primary school and secondary school teaching settings. And for you, it might be simply, 2 years experience or more than 5 years experience or prior experience in X and Y, Z industries. So that information can still be considered. So that's a good question. Thank you. Okay, good question here from Rebecca, thank you, in reference to your organisation. It can be really helpful to actually give a little bit of, just a little bit of a descriptor of who they are and what kind of business they operate in, if it's not already a really well-known and recognisable business or company name. And often the name itself doesn't necessarily shed any indicator of what it is exactly and what kind of business they work in. So it does help to have a little bit of a descriptor, and if it's a medium size or a large company, can make a big difference as well, the kind of industry that is based in. Try not to make it too long and lengthy, because it's really more about your skill sets and the capacity that you are working with them. But it can be helpful, yes. Where they are now. Okay, and yes, companies do restructure, downsize, resize, close down, and that's okay. If it's not active now, you might not need to necessarily mention that, but perhaps be prepared to talk about that in an interview setting. I wouldn't worry too much about that. That's just the nature of business and work. Another question here, is size 12 font the best for resumes? It is recommended, size 12. Size 10 can be a little bit small. It does depend on your font. A good test, usually about 11, 12 is recommended, and choosing a clean font style. A good little test is to just print your resume. So it's, in our electronic age, we spend a lot of time just on front of the screen, but always do that print test, because employers will typically print off the resumes and have them in a stack as they screen through. So printing will be a good answer. It needs to be easy to read and easy to extrapolate the key information. So don't make it hard, make it easy for them to do that. Okay, and there's a question here around addressing your cover letter when applying for the hidden job market. This relates to cold canvassing, which is a different topic. So I would encourage you to jump into the Career Hub and have a look at the cover letter writing information sheet. It's got a little bit of information there, and I think and that might be a nice little indicator. Perhaps we could run that as another topic in the near future. That's a whole webinar in its own right. Are there any that I've missed? I hope not. Not sure, Debbie. I think Debbie is still in line. If there's anything else that you would like to add or to any of those comments that I may have neglected. Any of part-time work? Yeah. Do mention any. Yes. Can I mention any professional part-time work? Absolutely. definitely. So don't neglect these. Or underestimate. So any industry experience that you have, particularly where you're changing industries, do add that onto your resume. Absolutely. And that can be, if you've got your qualification and accredited, particularly if it's accredited, or any qualification for that industry, plus you've got some industry experience, that's a really powerful combination. So absolutely make sure that features on your resume. Okay, it looks like I'm backtracking there. It looks like Debbie's responded to these. Thanks everyone for your participation today. If I've missed anything, you can always email or organise an appointment with us. And all the best with your job searching and your resume writing going forward. And we look forward to seeing you at our future webinars and events. Thanks everyone. Bye. Bye for now.